Hello and welcome to Raus IAS. This is the Daily News Simplified for the date 24 January 2024. And for today's initiative, we have picked these particular topics which are displayed over your screen. For prelims perspective, we are going to deal with 4 MCUs. The first of which is regarding Bharat Ratna Award. As we all know that the President of India has recently announced Bharat Ratna Award to a former Chief Minister of Bihar. The second topic is regarding VAIBHAV Fellowship, and this is the initiative of Government of India to attract scientists of Indian origin back to India. The third topic is regarding Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, and recently the Serum Institute of India has joined this coalition or this alliance. The fourth topic is related to Tax-to-GDP Ratio. And this is a good news to India that since many years, for the first time, the direct tax to GDP ratio in the country has improved or has significantly increased. Now, for mains perspective, we are going to deal with these two topics. First of which is related to solar energy prospects and challenges. And this is in particular in context to recently announced Pradhan Mantri Suryodaya Yojana by the Prime Minister of India. The second topic is regarding domestic support in agriculture and WTO issues. And this topic appeared in the Hindu Business Line. And this is in the context that in the next month, in the month of February 2024, there will be 13th Interministerial Conference of WTO, which is to be organized in Abu Dhabi, UAE. And in this context, we have taken this issue of domestic support in agriculture. And now for our last section, that is summary, we have picked the summary of these particular articles. The first of which is regarding the truth about India's booming toy exports. The toy exports in the country have been booming recently, have been increasing, and in this context, we will see some points in this article. And the other article is regarding the AI is not all that green. We will see what are the issues which the huge scale deployment of artificial intelligence is going to create for environment. We will see all these issues. And now before we start our discussion, if you like our video, give us a thumbs up. And if you have any doubts, you can ask them in the comment section. Now let's start our today's discussion with the very first article, which appeared on the page number 13 of The Hindu. Now this article says that the President of India has recently announced the conferment of Bharat Ratna to the former Chief Minister of Bihar, Mr. Karpuri Thakur, and he would be awarded Bharat Ratna posthumously after his death. Now let's see a few facts about Mr. Karpuri Thakur. He has served as the Chief Minister of Bihar for 2 terms, and he played a significant role in the Quit India movement, and he faced imprisonment in the same movement, and he is recognized as a socialist politician, as a socialist icon who have dedicated his efforts in the upliftment of backward classes in Bihar. And one of his prominent contribution is implementation of the recommendations of Mungeri Lal Commission during his tenure as a chief minister, and this commission had recommendations which was regarding giving reservation benefits to the other backward classes. So now these are some important facts which you should know about this particular personality. Now let's move on to the Bharat Ratna, and let's see about some facts regarding this prize, this award. And back in the year 2021 also, UPSC asked about this particular question, which was regarding Bharat Ratna and Padma Award. So this is important for us, particularly in art and culture section. Now let's see a few facts about Bharat Ratna Award. Now, as you all must be aware that Bharat Ratna Award is the highest civilian order which is conferred to any person of India, and this is conferred to any person who has done any exceptional service in any field. Now earlier, this Bharat Ratna Award, they were constituted in the year 1954. So earlier there was a criteria that this award were given only in the field of achievement in the field of art, science, literature, and public service. Though now this has been amended, and any person who has done an exceptional service in any field can be conferred with Bharat Ratna. So this is the first point regarding it. The other thing is that the recommendations to receive Bharat Ratna is given by the Prime Minister of India to the President of India, and the President of India announces Bharat Ratna award. These awards were constituted in the year 1954, and these awards contain no monetary grant. So there is a sanad, there is a certificate, but there is no monetary grant in this particular award. And can Bharat Ratna be given to non-Indians? The answer is yes, Bharat Ratna can also be conferred on to non-Indians. And in that context, you should remember few names that Bharat Ratna has been awarded to Mother Teresa, who was not an Indian citizen, but later she acquired Indian citizen, but two prominent foreigners, one of which is Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who is also known as Frontier Gandhi, and the other important personality is Nelson Mandela of South Africa, right? So these are some important non-Indians who have been conferred on Bharat Ratna. And then there is a limit that in any particular year, there should be maximum 3 recipients of Bharat Ratna. But only there was an exception in the year 1999 that 4 people were awarded Bharat Ratna in that particular year, right? So these are some of the important facts about Bharat Ratna. Now, based on this information, let us solve this question. The question says that consider the following statements. Statement 1, recipients of Bharat Ratna awards must have achievement in the field of art, science, literature, and public service. As I already told you that this is not a condition anymore. To receive Bharat Ratna, any person who has done significant contribution or exceptional contribution in any particular field, apart from these fields also, can receive Bharat Ratna, right? So this is an incorrect statement. The second statement is the statute of 1954, based on which Bharat Ratna was constituted. This award was constituted based on this statute. Now the statement says the statute of 1954 did not allow for granting of Bharat Ratna award posthumously. Yeah, this is a correct statement. Now earlier, by this statute of 1954, when this award was constituted, then there was no provision to award Bharat Ratna posthumously, that is after the death of any person. But later, in the next year, in the year 1955, this statute was amended. And then since then, any person can be awarded Bharat Ratna posthumously. And Lal Bahadur Shastri, the former Prime Minister of India, was the first recipient who got Bharat Ratna posthumously, right? Now, as the question asks, which of the statement given above is or are correct? The correct answer would be option B, 2 only. There is some issue with this marker. And now, let's move on to our second topic for the day, which is inspired by this news article, which appeared on the page number 14 of The Hindu. Now, this news article says that the Department of Science and Technology has announced the first batch of fellows of the VAIBHAV scheme, which is meant to attract Indian origin scientists abroad for short-term collaboration. So, the first such list of these scientists has been released by the Department of Science and Technology. Now, let's see a few facts regarding VAIBHAV scheme. VAIBHAV scheme, also known as Vaishvik Bharatiya Vaigyanik Scheme. So, this is a scheme which has been announced or implemented by the Department of Science and Technology under the Ministry of Science and Technology. And what is this scheme all about? This scheme is all about attracting the scientists of Indian origin. These scientists could be NRIs. These can be persons of Indian origin, which can be overseas citizens of India also. So basically, this scheme is to attract these scientists to work in India, that is to participate or to collaborate in the research initiatives which are going on in the Research Institute of India or in any academic institute of India. So this is to motivate them to collaborate, right? So, and to improve the research ecosystem of India's higher educational institution by facilitating academic and research collaboration with the best institutions in the country. So this is the aim of this scheme, right? And as I already told you, this scheme will provide a fellowship to the scientist of Indian origin, right? And this fellowship is for a duration of 3 years. And in this 3 years also, in these 3 years, the scientists have to work for a minimum period of 1 month for any particular research or educational institution, or for a maximum period of 2 months. So the fellowship is for the duration of 3 years, and these scientists have to work for a minimum duration of 1 month and maximum duration of 2 months, right? In any research institution. And they would be given a stipend or a research grant of amount of up to rupees 37 lakh for the entire period, right? So these are the key facts which you should remember regarding this scheme. Now, based on this information, let us solve this practice question. And now, why these schemes are important for us? Because as we all know that UPSC asks questions in the prelims examination regarding various important schemes. As we can see that in the year 2017, we found a question on Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. Now, let's solve this practice question, which says that it offers NRI researchers an opportunity to work for 6 months, a year, with a research institution or an academic institution in India. Now, this statement is incorrect, as it offers NRIs an opportunity to work for a maximum duration of 2 months and for a minimum duration of 1 month, right? The second statement says it is implemented by the Department of Higher Education, Ministry of Education. So this statement is also incorrect, as this particular scheme is being implemented by the Department of Science and Technology, right? And the third statement says that the duration of the fellowship is 5 years, and which is again incorrect, as the duration of this fellowship is for 3 years. Now, as the question asks how many of the above statements are correct, the correct answer would be option D, none, as all these statements are incorrect. Now, let's move on to our third MCQ for the day, and which is inspired by this news article which appeared on the page number 14 of The Hindu. Now, this news article says that the Serum Institute of India has joined CEPI Global Network, and CEPI, that stands for Collaboration for Epidemic Preparations and Innovation. So, Serum Institute of India has joined this particular institution or this particular alliance, right? And Serum Institute is a prominent research institute of India which is working towards development of vaccine. And when Serum Institute has joined CEPI, this will create a better facility for developing vaccines in the global south, right? And this will help to quickly or develop vaccines at the time of breakout of any epidemic or pandemic. So this is the rationale why Serum Institute of India has joined this alliance. Now let's see a few facts regarding Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, that is CEPI. Now see, what is CEPI? Basically, this is an alliance, and this is an alliance of public, private and various civil society organizations. And together, these public, private and civil society organizations, they are working for the development of vaccines, for the quick development of vaccines, in order to prevent any future epidemic, or we can say in order to give quick response in terms when, if there is an outbreak of any pandemic or epidemic in future, right? For quick response, these all are working. And then if this is an organization, so there is a fund for that purpose, for collaboration, which this fund can be collaborated by this public functionaries, private and civil society organization. And there is a technology transfer. Like if Serum Institute has joined this alliance, it will also get the technologies which the world-class collaboration or these institutes which they have these technologies for quick development of vaccines, right? So this will lead to the sharing of funds, to the collection of funds and to the sharing of technology, right? So it is an alliance for quick development of vaccine. This is the first thing. And this alliance was launched in the year 2017 at the World Economic Forum, which was held in Davos. And one important fact about this alliance is that this alliance has adopted a vision of 100 days mission. So 100 days, this means that when any pandemic or any epidemic has been detected, the day it is detected, within 100 days of its detection, these all institutions will develop vaccines, will create a vaccine under 100 days. So this is the vision of 100 days mission for delivering a vaccine within 100 days after the identification of an outbreak of a pandemic or epidemic. And this will give it, and this will provide, and this will also have a facility of improved surveillance, early detection and warning, right? So this is the purpose of this particular alliance. Now, why we have taken this question is that UPSC asks questions regarding various international organizations, regarding various groupings. As in the year 2016, we found a question on International Solar Alliance. So now, based on the information which we saw, let's solve this particular question. The question says that with reference to the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, consider the following statements. First statement is, it was launched at the World Economic Forum Summit in 2017. So this is a correct statement. The second statement says, the primary goal of CEPI is to create equal access to new and underused vaccines for children living in the world's poorest countries against infectious diseases. Now see, this is an incorrect statement. Why so? See, there is another alliance which is known as GAVI, or it is also known as the Vaccine Alliance. So this alliance was formed in the year 2000. Now the primary goal of this Gavi Vaccine Alliance is to create access to new and unused vaccines, for particularly these vaccines will be delivered to children to protect them against infectious diseases. These diseases can be, say, polio, cholera, typhoid, right, or any other such diseases. So this statement which we saw here, to provide vaccines to children. This is the primary goal of GAVI. But the primary goal of CEPI is to facilitate quick development of vaccines in the event of any pandemic or epidemic outbreak, right? Now, so this statement is incorrect. The third statement says it adopted a vision of 100 days mission for delivering a vaccine within 100 days, and we saw it. This is a correct statement. Now, as a question asked, how many of the above statement is or are correct? Our correct answer would be option B, only 2, as 2 statements are correct. Now let's move on to our final MCQ for the day, which is inspired by this news article which appeared on the page number 3 of the business line, the Hindu business line, which we are including these days in DNS. And now there is a good news for India. The good news is that CBCT, which is Central Board of Direct Taxes, so it has CBDT has recently released a report in which CBDT has said that for the first time since many years, the ratio of direct tax to GDP in the country has improved. So let's see this data or this chart which was released by CBDT. So we can see on the left hand side there is a data which starts with financial year 2014-15 and it ends with the data from the last financial year, which was 2022-23. And we see that if we come from top to bottom, we see that in the previous financial year, the direct tax to GDP ratio was 6.11, and we are seeing, as we come from top to bottom, we see a constant improvement in the collection, nearly a constant improvement in collection of tax with respect to GDP. So we are talking about collection of direct tax with respect to GDP. So this shows that how much direct tax has been collected with respect to India's GDP, right? And now, see, if we notice in the financial year 2020, in the financial year 2021, this trend showed some declining pattern. Like in the financial year 2019, this ratio was 6.12. But then we saw that this ratio in the financial year 20 was 5.23. So there was a decline, and again there was a decline in financial year 2021. So why was it so? This was because of the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, right? So this also shows that when there is a higher collection of direct tax with respect to GDP of a country, this shows that the economy of that country is growing. And when we see in these present years, in these years we saw in 2020-21, so we saw that there was some impact in the economy of the country due to COVID-19, and which was also reflected in this direct tax to GDP ratio. Hope this is clear. And also the report said one more thing, that the cost of collection of taxes has also come down, and this is because of the better tax administration. So this is the context of this news article. Now, based on this information, let us solve this particular question. And this topic is important for us in economy under the subhead financial policies of the government, right? So this question says that with reference to the tax to GDP ratio. What is tax to GDP ratio? It is the ratio of tax collected in the country to the GDP of that country. Now tax can be of two types. It can be direct taxes as well as indirect taxes. Direct taxes, in this particular report we are talking about direct taxes, which are say income tax, say a capital gain tax. So these are income tax, capital gains tax. So these are some sort of direct taxes, and we have various other indirect taxes like GST, like VAT, right, like excise duty, and these are other taxes. So now let's solve this question, which says that a decline in tax to GDP ratio signify slowdown in economic growth. Now this is a correct statement, as we saw in this chart that when there was a decline in this tax to GDP ratio, though it was the data of just direct tax to GDP ratio, but the trend is equally true for if there is a tax to GDP ratio, then there is it would signify slowdown in economic growth, right? And to support this, we have this particular chart, and in this chart we saw these are the data regarding financial year 2008 until the financial year 2016, and we can see that direct tax to GDP ratio has been declining, and in that same case there was a decline in the economic growth also, right? So this is a correct statement, that decline in tax to GDP ratio would signify slowdown in economic growth. The second statement is India's tax to GDP ratio is comparable to that of emerging market economies. Now this is an incorrect statement. Why? Because presently, though we have seen that the direct tax to GDP ratio has increased, it is 6.1%, and if we talk about the tax to GDP ratio, which will include direct and indirect taxes, and this ratio is presently, it is equivalent to somewhat 11%, right? But if we talk about this ratio in the emerging market economies or in the developing economies, if we see it, this ratio is around 21% for other developing countries. So we can see that this 11% ratio, this tax to GDP ratio, is less as compared to other emerging market economies. So this statement becomes incorrect. Now as the question asks which of the above statement is or are correct, our correct answer would be option 1 only, right? Now with this, let's move on to our main topics for the day. So the first topic for today's discussion is inspired by this news article which appeared on the explained section of Indian Express. Now this news article is in the context that recently the Prime Minister of India has launched Pradhan Mantri Suryoday Yojana has announced. Basically, the details of that Yojana are not in the are not in are not in public domain as of now, but this scheme has been announced by the Prime Minister of the country. And now in this news article, we will see that what is the status of solar energy in the country, and we will see that what are the challenges the solar sector faces, and we will see some stats regarding it, and we will also see that previously also government has launched various initiatives in this particular segment. So we are going to see this. This topic is important for us under GS paper 3 economy, under the syllabus head infrastructure energy, in the renewable energy theme, right? Now let's start our discussion. So what is solar energy and what is the concept of it? Now we all know that solar energy, primarily you have seen such kind of cells. These are solar cells. What is a solar cell? Solar cell is a device that can convert light energy into electrical energy. So if solar cells are combined together, so it forms a solar panel, as we are seeing in the image. The concept of working of solar cell is based on photoelectric effect. So what is this effect? This effect says that whenever any source of light, say any photon, this is light and photon are packets of light. Whenever these packets of light will strike any electric surface or any surface, it will emit an electron, right? So in this process, what happens that light waves or photons, they strike this semiconductor. Solar cells are made up of semiconductors. By fabricating the layers of p-type semiconductor and n-type semiconductor, they are joined together to form these silicon wafers, to form these silicon solar cells, right? And the sunlight hits these silicon wafers or these cells, and they eject out electrons. And because of this flow of electrons, an electric current is produced. And this electric current can in turn be stored, right? And hence we can say that solar cell it converts light energy into electric energy, right? Now, if we talk about India's electricity mix, we all know that in India, the major chunk of energy which we used in the country is sourced from fossil fuels, and in which also the primary contribution is that of thermal power plants or coal. Another component is hydroelectricity. And if we talk about solar energy, it is a kind of renewable energy. And now let's see what are the goals of India to adopt renewable energy in future. Now, first of all, in that sense, you should know about the updated nationally determined contribution of India. So India updated its nationally determined contribution recently, and India said that till the year 2030, 50% of India's installed capacity will come from renewable energy sources. So what is the present status? So we can see these charts here, and in the center chart we can see this is a status of the year 2020. In the year 2020, this brown color pie chart shows the contribution of fossil fuels in energy mix, which is around 77%, and the contribution of renewable energy sources, which consist of solar energy, and it consists of, say, wind energy, wind energy, solar energy, tidal energy, nuclear energy. So these are renewable energies, right? And their contribution is presently around 23%. And in the year 2023 also, the contribution of renewable energy in the total energy mix is 22.45%. That is equivalent to 23%. But what is the goal of India? India aims to, by the year 2030, India aims to generate 50% of total energy mix through renewable energy. For that, what we need to do? We need to install, or we need to expand the existing renewable energy sources. And solar energy is one kind of renewable energy. So India is focusing more on expansion of solar energy, right? And also, if we see the present status of renewable energy in the country, we saw that it contributes to 23%. in the total energy mix in terms of gigawatts. We see that presently the installed renewable energy capacity in the country is around 180 gigawatts, right? And in the COP26, India has set a target that till the year 2030, India will produce India will produce 500 gigawatts of energy by renewable energy sources. So we can see that we are presently in the year 2024 and we produce 180 gigawatts, and till the year 2030 we aim to produce 500 gigawatts. So we need to expand our renewable energy. And in renewable energy, solar energy is a prominent or a most promising sector. So let's see a few stats regarding to it. Now India has an ample potential for generation of solar energy because we are a tropical country and we receive a higher solar irradiation or a higher solar radiation in the country, right? And if we see this map, we can see that there are certain states of the country who have enormous solar energy generation capacity or potential. And as per the latest data, government has calculated that the total potential to generate solar energy in the country is around 748 gigawatts, right? But presently, how much installed capacity we have? We have 73 gigawatts. That is, as we saw earlier, that 180 gigawatts is the share of renewable energy in the country, and out of this 180 gigawatts, 73 gigawatts is generated by the use of solar energy. And India has a potential to generate around 748 gigawatts of solar energy. And if we see this map of India, these are some states are prominent or they have more potential, and these states are, if we rank them according to their potential, the number one in this sense is Rajasthan. The second number is with the Union Territory Jammu and Kashmir. The third place is with Maharashtra. Fourth place is with Madhya Pradesh, and among others, and Gujarat also. So these are some of the Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, and many other states of the country have enormous potential to generate solar energy, right? And of this total 73 gigawatt of solar energy, if we see, presently 11 gigawatts of which is being produced by rooftop solar installations. That is the installation of solar cells in the rooftop of any country, of any home, and their share is 11 gigawatt. And hence, to improve this share of rooftop capacity, government has recently launched National Suryodaya Yojana, and this scheme aims to install rooftop solar plants in around 1 crore of Indian households, and hence to increase the solar rooftop capacity, right? And now let's quickly see what are the advantages of solar energy. The first advantage is that, as we all know, that solar energy is a renewable energy, and as compared to fossil fuels, they are a sustainable source of energy. And the second thing is reduced air pollution. So as compared to the fossil fuel sources like coal, like other polluting sources like crude oil, they are less polluting as compared to these sources, and hence they reduce the air pollution. The third thing is energy security. So presently we have seen that India is importing around 50% of its crude oil, or more than 50% of its crude oil, to generate energy, right, for its energy needs. And also India is also dependent on other fossil fuels, and India imports it. But if we install solar energy, this will provide energy security to the country, and this will also narrow down the trade deficit which presently occurs due to when India imports these fossil fuels from other countries, right? So it will narrow down trade deficit and it will provide energy security to the country. Fourth important thing is that it's off-grid electrification. Now see, solar panels, they can be installed in any rooftop. They can be installed in any ground, any barren land or any ground. That is, these can be installed as a stand-alone infrastructure. That is, for installation of solar energy, we don't require any set infrastructure like transmission lines or any other infrastructure, as they are standalone infrastructure. They can be they can be installed anywhere. So because of this particular benefit, this solar energy panels, this PV cells, photovoltaic cells, they can be installed at the rooftops, in particularly in rural or remote areas where 24/7 access to electricity is not there, right? So this can be used for off-grid electrification. That is, when energy is not provided in form of grid by discoms. In that sense, they can provide you off-grid electrification, right? And it requires minimal infrastructure for it. Now, finally, for the installation of PV cells, photovoltaic cells and solar modules, we need labor, right? And we also need skilled labor for it. So this will also create job creation. And for manufacturing also, solar modules manufacturing starts in India on large scale, and then also it is going to create jobs. So these are the benefits of solar energy, like of this sector. But see, there are certain challenges which are faced by this sector. Let us discuss them. The first thing is regarding the cost of production of solar energy. Now we see the initial installation cost of solar energy is too high. As per an estimate, it was said that to install a rooftop solar installation in the country, it would cost around 75,000 to around 2 lakh rupees per household. So we were talking about providing electricity to the rural and remote areas, but there the paying capacity or the spending capacity of these people, or the initial spending capacity of these people, may not be sufficient to afford this price, right? So we can say that there is an issue of cost. The initial cost of installation of solar facilities is high. The other thing is that the solar facilities or the solar cells, they are profitable in economies of scale. That is, if we increase the number of solar panels, their per unit production cost would decrease. That is, as the number of solar panels increases, their cost of production of energy per unit, their cost of per unit production of energy decreases. That is, when economies of scale increases, it is more profitable. But see, if we use solar energy as a standalone infrastructure, in that sense, producing electricity from solar power panels would be costly. Per unit cost would be more as compared to when they are used as economy of scale in solar parks. And the third thing is that for facilitation of these rooftop panels, there is a limited financial availability in the country. So there are less schemes in the country, or availability of loans for installation of the solar facility in the country are low or minimal, right? So this also, so the first issue is regarding enormous cost of installation. And the second issue is regarding the poor manufacturing capacity in the India. So presently in India, the manufacturing ecosystem, especially of solar cells and solar modules, is very poor. And if we see the data from 2021-2022, India imported solar cells and modules from China, which costed India $76 billion, more than $76 billion. So we can say that presently India is up to 75% times India is highly dependent on China in procuring the manufacturing, in procuring the raw materials for manufacturing of solar cells. Around 75% of solar cells and modules, these are imported from China. So the domestic capability is very less, right? And for that there is a stats, and we can see that India presently only has 3 gigawatt capacity for solar cell production and 8 gigawatt capacity for solar panel production, right? So it boils down to one fact that the domestic manufacturing capacity of solar cells and modules is poor in India, and hence we are dependent on China up to 75% of solar material needs, right? So this is a huge concern for the country. The third thing is there is an issue of grid integration. Now see, one challenge with solar energy is that solar energy is intermittent in nature. This means that solar energy is available only when sun shines, right? It is available during daytime, and the generation of solar energy may be impacted when there are cloud-like conditions. So it is an intermittent source of energy. In order that this solar energy can provide us a reliable supply of energy, we need to connect solar energy with existing grid infrastructure. That is, existing grid or electricity infrastructure with the DISCOMs. So India needs to integrate the solar energy produced infrastructure or the energy which is produced from solar energy to the grid, to the energy grid of DISCOMs. And presently there is a challenge in seamless integration of this solar energy and this energy generated by DISCOMs, and this is also an issue. In that sense, we can also say there is for storing solar energy, there is lack of sufficient battery infrastructure also. These batteries which store solar powers are very costly. Other thing is, so this is one issue, and there are various transmission and distribution losses also because of this lack of seamless integration of grid. So this is another issue. Fourth issue is that, as we saw, that solar power, this can bring down air pollution, but at the same time, so the manufacturing process of solar cells, it is detrimental to the environment. How? When we manufacture solar cells, they are fabricated, they are made out of silicon, which is a semiconductor, and the process of making silicon, in this process quartz is heated to enormous temperatures, and in this heating process of quartz there are enormous emissions of carbon dioxide. So there is an enormous emission of carbon dioxide in the production process of silicon, which is the raw material for production of solar cells. This is the first issue. Another issue is that it also releases, in the process, it also releases silicon tetrachloride, and this is a toxic pollutant. So these are detrimental to the environment. Now, one significant issue is regarding the waste, which is created by by the discarded solar panels. So in this production process, in the process of manufacturing solar panels, and when these panels are discarded, then they create enormous waste, and there are some toxic substances which are also generated in this process. And there were an estimate that till the year 2030, the solar waste accumulated in the country would be around 35,000 metric tons. And this is a huge concern for India in the absence of better recycling units, which recycle solar panels, right? So this solar waste is a issue for the country. And there are other small issues, like, for example, the acquisition of land for construction of solar parks. Now, for the large scale installation of solar panels, we need a huge land area. So there are concerns that agricultural land can be diverted in this process. And also, when in the process of acquisition of land, there are certain challenges which can be faced, and it may lead to displacement of some people and destruction of the ecosystems. This is one issue. And another issue is that Despite various initiatives by the government, despite the initiatives by the government in integrating the energy grid, still the end consumers are not benefited by it, by these initiatives. That is, despite the tariff measures which the government is giving for the production of solar power, the 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 price of solar power per unit is still costly, and this benefit is not being passed on to the consumers. So these are some of the challenges. And let's quickly see what are the schemes which were launched by the government and Indian government in recent times for this sector. Now, first of all, let's see National Solar Mission. National Solar Mission was launched by the government of India in the year 2010. And what was the primary purpose of it? The primary purpose of this mission was to create 100 gigawatts of installed solar capacity or the solar generation capacity by the year 2022. And we saw that presently this capacity is around 73 gigawatt. So the goals of this mission have not been met, right? So this was first such mission. And one important mission is International Solar Alliance. Now, International Solar Alliance was announced in COP21 Paris, and it is a joint initiative. It was announced by India and France. India and France. So this is a solar alliance, or this is an alliance or a grouping which presently has 120 members. And earlier it was open for the countries which are located in the tropics, that is Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. But now its membership has been open to any countries which is a part of United Nations. And this alliance is for cooperation or collaboration and for creating a global energy grid for that purpose, right? For efficient generation, storage and transmission of solar energy throughout all these countries by creation of a futuristic global energy grid. So these are the basic purpose of this is the basic purpose of International Solar Alliance. One more thing, its aim was to generate 1000 gigawatt of solar installed capacity by the year 2030, and it aims to raise $1000 billion for this purpose till the year 2030, right? So these are the key points which you should remember regarding it. Now another scheme is PM Kusum scheme, and which is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Urja Suraksha Evam Uthan Mahabhiyan, and this initiative was launched by the government of India in 2019. So see, this scheme, there is a keyword Kisan. So this scheme aimed to help Kisan by creation of solar power generation facility in their barren or uncultivated uncultivable lands. That is, these farmers can use their barren lands and they can install solar generation capacities there, by which they can produce solar energy. And this solar energy they can sell it to discoms and they can earn money. So this was one aim of this scheme, and it aimed to create around 10 gigawatt for this purpose. And another component was that it aimed to install solar pumps. That is, the farmers, they should use solar pumps in place of presently they use diesel pumps. This was to minimize the use of fossil fuel like diesel, and also to improve its productivity and for mass adaptation of solar facilities, right? Finally, there is a PLI scheme, that is a production link incentive for the manufacturing of solar modules. That is, in order to facilitate the domestic production of solar modules, Government of India has launched a PLI scheme for this sector also. And this recently launched PM Sarvodaya Yojana, which the government has recently announced, right? The details of this schemes are still awaited, and the primary details show that this scheme aims to create 1 crore solar rooftop installations in the country, right? And it aims to generate around 40 gigawatts of solar electricity by this purpose, by installing 1 crore solar rooftops and till the year 2026. So these are some important points which you should know. And now, what is the way forward in this regard? First of all is by providing financial initiative or subsidies to the people for installation of solar facilities, right? And by aggregation of roof spaces, and this can be done in urban areas where there are various house which are conjoined, which are joined, and in this there can be an aggregation of roof spaces to create joint solar facilities. As we already saw that in the economies of scale, solar production is more efficient, right? Is more economical. And the third is creation of circular economy, that is creation of facilities for recycling of solar PVs, right? And for reusing these solar PVs, and to fix and to frame some rules regarding recycling and extended producer responsibilities, to frame some rules regarding extended producer responsibilities in this sector, right? And other thing is by enhancing international collaboration. As we all know that India is pushing International Solar Alliance, right? And by more collaboration in this field, by more collaboration in the terms of fund technological innovations, we can see that there can be more adoption of solar energy in future. Now let's move on to our second mains article, which is inspired by this news article which appeared on the page number 11 of the Hindu Business Line. And now this news article is regarding the 13th ministerial conference of WTO, which is going to be held at Abu Dhabi, UAE, and this is going to be held in February 2024. And in this there would be discussions regarding the issue of agricultural subsidies, right? So we will see this article and we will see this issue, and this article is important for us for GS paper 3 economy under the issues related to buffer stocks and food security, right? So let me give you a brief overview regarding this article. Now see what happens, that India now, see, we have a National Food Security Act in the country, NFSA 2013, right? So under NFSA 2013, government has an obligation to provide subsidized food grains to the people of India, to the 2/3 population of India, under targeted public distribution system, right? And it comprises 50% urban population and 75% rural population. And this is why this is to provide food security to these people. So on one hand, India is obligated to provide food security under National Food Security Act. Now for this targeted public distribution system, what does government do? Government does procurement. Now government can do procurement of food grains from farmers for many purposes, say for important purposes. What are these important purposes? The first thing is for public distribution system, as we saw here. Second thing may be to control the volatility of food grains, right? And for any other strategic purpose. So this is why the government procures food grains from farmers. This is one thing. But now let's see what is the role of WTO here. Now see, what is WTO? WTO is an international organization. WTO is an international organization which was founded in the year 1995. And what is the primary purpose of WTO? It is to regulate trade, to ensure that there is a liberalized trade, there is a free and fair trade, right? Matlab basically it is for liberalization of trade. Now for it, it frames certain agreements, and there is a one prominent agreement which is agreement on agriculture. This agreement of agriculture came into force in the year 1995 under the Marrakesh Agreement, right? So under this agreement, what was this agreement all about? This agreement on agriculture, this was to reform the trade related to agriculture. As I already told you, the work of WTO is to regulate trade, and for this, for regulating, for reforming the trade in agriculture, we have this agreement on agriculture, right? So we can say reforming trade, and the other thing is it has to reduce agriculture subsidies. So one important provision of this agreement on agriculture is to reduction of agricultural subsidies, right? Now let's see one important, and under this provision there are three important categories. The first category is improving market access. Improving market access by removing trade barriers. The second thing is domestic support, and the third thing is reducing money which is spent in export subsidies. So basically this agreement on agriculture will be reforming trade by the help of these important initiatives or these important categories, which is by improving market access, by removing trade barriers, right, which include trade barriers and non-tariff barriers also, and by domestic support. And this section of domestic support is what we are going to see today, and also by reducing the amount which is spent in agricultural subsidies, right? And now let's see this domestic support, this category of domestic support. Now first of all, why does any country, domestic support means domestic support, this is the support given by any country to its domestic agricultural producers. That is, any country, say India, can give support in form of, which can be in the form of subsidies also, and price incentives also to its domestic producers in order to produce food grains, right? And it basically serves two purposes. What is the first purpose? The first purpose is to ensure food security in the country. The second purpose is to ensure farmers welfare, right? So these are the two reasons why domestic support is given by any country. And now what this agreement on agriculture says? It says that, see, these subsidies which the government is giving to these farmers or these domestic producers, these should be curbed or these should be regulated. There should be minimum subsidies. Now this WTO has, under this domestic support, there are three important boxes. What are three important boxes? The first box is green box, other box is blue box, and the third box is amber box, right? Now let's quickly see what is this green box. Any subsidies which are placed under green box, these are those subsidies which are non-trade distortionary. That is, these subsidies have minimal impact on trade. We can say they have minimal impact on trade. That is, there is a green signal to any country by WTO to give these subsidies, right? Any country can give all these subsidies which are present in green box, and there is no limit for it, right? No limit for it, as they have a minimal impact on trade. And what are these subsidies which a country can give? The first thing is regarding research and development. So there can be subsidies which the government can give regarding the development of any research and development infrastructure. Say manufacturing of high yielding variety of seeds, say forming of Kisan Vigyan Kendra, these all things, right? Another thing is by in creation of any infrastructure which is for production processes, which will support production processes. That is, for example, government can give incentives or subsidies for the creation of canals, right? For the creation of irrigation systems, for the creation of bore wells, in that sense, right? Government can lay down electricity transmission lines, right? Because this is an infrastructure which will support the production processes. And this kind of support is not being given to any particular species of crops. Rather, this is being given in order to enhance production or in order to enhance agricultural production, right? And the other thing which we can see, say other example can be storage infrastructure. That is, government can create APMCs government can create mandis, government can create warehouses, right? So these can be created, or farmers can create whatever. So for creation of all this, there is no limit, or there is no restrictions from WTO in order to give these subsidies, right? And there is one more scheme, if you have heard, PM Kisan, PM Kisan scheme. And PM Kisan scheme, it is a kind of income support to farmer. Government gives 6,000 rupees per year to the small and marginal farmers. Now see, this money which the government is giving to the farmers are not restricted to use this money to any particular crop. Now farmer can utilize this crop, this money as per his choice, right? Since it is not a product specific, that's why it comes under green box. So I hope you understood this concept of green box. Now let's move on to the blue box subsidy. Now see, blue box subsidy is that subsidy which there is no limit to this subsidy also, but this subsidy is given to limit production. Now, under this subsidy, only few countries in the world give this subsidy. So under this subsidy, government can give incentive or subsidy to farmers in order to limit production of any particular crop, which the government does not want that the production of that particular crop should increase. For that, government can give subsidies to farmers to stop growing that crop. Now, for example, there is a farmer, and this is 100% area of his land in which he cultivates a particular crop. And then government can say, okay, you just plant this crop in 50% area of your farm and leave this 50% area fallow. Leave this idle or fallow, right? And in order to do so, we will compensate you, right? So this is a kind of subsidy which is given to limit production. And now in this kind of subsidy also, there is no limit, right? So what is the problem? The problem is with amber box subsidies, not with green box and not with blue box subsidies. Now let's understand what are these amber box subsidies. Now see, these amber box subsidies are a kind of trade distorting subsidies. Now what is trade distortion? Trade distortion means, see, in any say there is a market is ruled by demand and supply, right? So demand and supply, so the price of any crops should only be regulated or should only be governed by its demand and its supply. Say if the supply of that crop becomes more than the demand, then the price of that crop should decrease, right? But say if the demand of that crop increases but supply is less, then price would increase. So this is the market mechanism, and this is what is a fair market mechanism, right? But what does trade distortion mean? Trade distortion means that if any particular country is subsidizing its farmers, giving subsidy to its farmers to grow any particular crop. Say, for example, if we talk about minimum support price, this minimum support price is placed in amber box because this is a kind of trade distorting subsidies. Why? Because see, farmers are given MSPs to around 22 to 23 crops in the country, and see, government has in one sense given guarantee that you grow these crops like wheat, rice, and we will procure them at a minimum support price, right? And now because of which these farmers are getting incentivized to grow a product, that is, it is a product specific. पहली बात, first thing, it is a product specific subsidy. Other thing is that if government is subsidizing the farmers to grow wheat and rice, its production is bound to increase, and because of which, say there is an other country, for example, say we have Brazil. If Brazil wants to trade its wheat in the market, and if India is also trading wheat in the market, and if say there is a third country who wants to procure wheat, and it has two options, India and Brazil, but we see that Indian government has given enormous subsidy in form of MSP for the production of wheat. So naturally the price of wheat is going to be cheaper when it is being procured from India, right? And in that sense, Brazil or its farmers would be at disadvantage, right? So basically this concern that the subsidies which are placed in amber box should be regulated. This concern comes from developed countries. Developed countries like US, they feel that India or these developing countries who have been given these amber box subsidies, because of which there can be a price distortion in the market and which would be disadvantageous to the farmers of US or other developed nations. I hope you understood it. Now let us quickly see what are these indicators which are placed here. What are these subsidies? These subsidies can be in terms of fertilizer subsidy, water subsidy, other subsidies in form of seed, electricity, right? These are MSP. So these are trade distorting subsidies. But in the now see, these subsidies, government can give this subsidy. Government cannot outrightly deny these subsidies. Any government can give these subsidies to its farmers, but there is a limit for it. And what is the limit for it? The limit is that for developing countries, they can only give 10% of their domestic agricultural value production in 1986-1988. That is, any developing country can give 10% of its total domestic agricultural value, which was produced in the year 1986-1988. And developed countries can only give 5% of its subsidy, which it produced in 1986-1988, right? But now we have understood all these domestic subsidies. Now let's see what is the challenge here. The challenge is that India is giving subsidies in terms of PDS, as we already saw, and the PDS, mostly these crops are procured via MSP, right? And now this comes under amber box. And now amber box, there is a limit for which. And now what developed countries say? Developed countries say that India, which is stacking these crops via PDS mechanism, and out of this buffer stock which India is creating buffer stock for it, and then out of this buffer stock India is trading. India is exporting its stocks in the market, and which are trade distorting. And this is in contradiction to the agreement on agriculture or the WTO norms of free trade in the market, right? Now, in order to see the concerns of India, there was, and other developing countries, there was a peace clause which was signed in the year 2013. Now let's see that what are the concerns of India. The concerns of India is regarding the year which is mentioned, 1986 and 1988. Now let's understand this with the help of example. This agreement says that any developing country, say India, can give subsidies to its farmer, 10% subsidies of its total agricultural value in the year 1986-1988. But now, as we all know that in the year 1986-1988, the net agricultural value of the country of India was less. And now, say, for an example, let's suppose that we produced 100 crores of total agricultural products in this particular year, right? Now, based on this 100 crore, we can presently give only rupees 10 crore subsidies to our farmers, right? But now in the present time, say if we see in the past financial year, just for an example, say our total agricultural value production has become now 1000 crore. Now in this sense, if the reference point of this year was of 2020 to 23, we could be giving 100 crore of subsidies to our farmers. Now what does India want? India wants revision in the baseline of this clause, which is 1986-1988. That is, this year should be revised in order that we can give higher subsidies to our farmers. And in this issue, there is a peace clause which was signed in the year 2023, in the year 2013, sorry. And what was this peace clause? This peace clause said that until a permanent solution to these concerns of India and other developing countries, until a permanent solution is found to this concern, till then, these developing countries, they can give the developing country like India can give agricultural subsidies to its farmer, and for that WTO will not take any legal action, right? Till then, a permanent solution is formed. India can give the subsidies exceeding this limit also, this limit which is 10%, exceeding this limit, and for that there would be no legal action on India, but only when up till a permanent solution to this problem is found. But presently, in the present scenario, 10 years have passed since the signing of this peace clause, and there is no permanent solution to this issue. And again, this issue might come up in the in the ministerial conference, which is going to be held in 2024. And in this, the author says that for a clean solution at WTO, India can promise that India will not export from its public stocks. That is the buffer stock which India has created. India will only use those stocks for PDS or for food security purposes, and India will not export to other countries from that buffer stock. So this is what this article says. Now let's quickly see the summary of our today's articles. The first summary is related to of this article which appeared on the page number 8 of the Hindu. This article says about that the toy sector of the toy sector in the country, it is booming, right? And in this sense, we saw that in the year 2022-2023, the exports have increased by 239. So this is a comparison between 2 years, like since the financial year 2015 to the financial year 2023. What we see that in this period, the toys exports, like India is exporting toys, and this factor has increased by 239%, and our imports have declined by 52%. This means that our exports are more and our imports are less. Now this is favorable for any country, right? But there is a thing that, see, in a country, if we say that imports, they have declined, what could be reasons for it? First thing is, say our production has increased. We have the capability to produce cheap and quality toys, right? Say our production has increased, right? And we are now able to produce toys. The second thing can be that we are using some protectionist policies. We are imposing some import barriers, and we are preventing the import of toys from other countries into India. And this can also be a reason, these protectionist measures can also be a reason that why imports are declining. Now the author says that if we see the data, this decline in import, this is because the customs duty on toys, which is a tariff measure, this was increased. That is, we increased this tariff, this customs duty or this import duty to 70%, right? And other thing is that this non-tariff barriers, there are enormous non-tariff barriers which were imposed, and these barriers were like quality control, this quality control order, and mandatory sample testing of each import consignment. And because of which, what happened? Because of this quality checks and this sample testing, the imports, they declined, right? So our imports are declining primarily because of rise in this protectionist measures by the government, that is by imposition of import duty and by imposition of these non-tariff barriers, which are in the form of quality checks and other barriers, right? But this increase, the other thing which I discussed, that if the production increased, if the investment in this toy sector increased, that could also be one reason why imports are declining. But if we see this data, what we find that the investment in these all sectors, it has nearly remained same, and there is a decline in labor productivity, right? So we can say that there is no change in the data regarding investment. So the article says that India is not turning into a net toy exporter on account of improved domestic supply and its competitiveness. Rather, there is a turnaround in toy trade because of rising protectionism in the country. So this is what this article says. Now, naturally, what should be the way forward? This way forward should be that, see, this protectionism measures which the government is adopting, this will only enable the rise in this domestic industry for a shorter time. But for a long term gain, what do we need to do? We need to increase the investment in the production processes. We should increase the ease of doing business in this particular sector. We should increase investment, right? And we should focus on labor productivity, that is by raising their wages and by providing them good working conditions. So these are all the long term measures which will result in a better position for India and a better boom for toy sector in the country, right? This is the article all about. And the second article, which appeared on Business Line, this article say that artificial intelligence is not all that green. Now we have seen that artificial intelligence is a technology which is being adopted at a large scale in the country, in the world, globally, right? And we all know that artificial intelligence have some benefits. But on the other terms, this author says that, see, AI is not all that green. Why? Because there are significant concerns which are related to these AI, right? And what are these concerns? The first thing is that, we know, generative AI, there are these models like ChatGPT and other generative AI systems which feed on large sets of data. And in order to provide them large set of data, in order to train them, they require enormous energies. The author in this article says that, see, with the increased advancement in their artificial intelligence capacity, there would be complexity in their data sets and algorithm, and in order to solve this, again, we will require more energy. That is, as these systems are going to advance further, we will require more energy in order to feed them, in order to train them, right? The other concern is regarding the AI, the waste which is generated in this process. So in the development, in all these processes and the development, deployment, manufacturing, in everything of this AI related products and these processes, they create a enormous amount of e-waste. And this e-waste, there are some dangerous substances which are released like lead, mercury and cadmium and other substances, and which have enormous polluting potential, right? So this article is that the article is related to issues related to the carbon footprint of AI and how do we need to, and we need to put our focus on these issues also, right? So this is all for today. If you have any questions, you can ask us in the comment section, right? So this is the end of discussion. Thank you.